Hello and welcome back to Something Z, and welcome to What If Sasuke Died in the Prologue Part 5. Last time on the What If, Naruto met Jiraiya and he summoned Gamabunta for the first time. So let's jump into the What If. After Gamabunta was summoned, the Toad asked why he is there, and Naruto replied that he summoned him, and since he did, that Toad must do whatever Naruto said, in which the Toad, angry that this kid has the audacity to talk to him like that, makes a deal with him, which is if Naruto can spend the rest of the day on Toad's back, then he will consider making him his henchman. And when Naruto agreed, the Toad jumped out of the ravine, and Naruto was able to stay on the Toad for the whole day. And he was so drained from holding on, Gamabunta had to take Naruto to the hospital. And I'll say that since Naruto used the Sharingan to copy the summoning jutsu, he was able to control it better. I don't know if this is actually true, but for this what if, just go with it, sorry. And now he primarily summons two different Toads. And just so you don't have to search it up, I'll put it on screen. They were a messenger Toad named Kosuke and a Toad that looked like Gamma, but you flipped the color schemes, and it was more of Naruto's size, and it went by the name Gamatsu. But there's a mess up from time to time, where Naruto only summons a tadpole, and that has around a 25% chance of happening. And everything happens the same, where Naruto and Shikamaru see Gaara almost kill Lee. So we skip to the actual Chunin exams, and when the exam started, Sakura wasn't there yet, just like Sasuke, since she was busy training on the mountain for a bit longer. And the first names that were called were Naruto and Neji Hyuga. And when their names were called, everyone left the arena while the two were told to stand in front of each other. And when the countdown ended, Naruto began the fight by making 10 shadow clones, but Neji was able to deal with them easily. And when Naruto got hit in a couple of his chakra points, he decided to go all out. So as quick as he could, he uncovers his Sharingan, and he used it to avoid most of Neji's attacks. And while they are still fighting, they have a discussion about destiny, and how Naruto can't be the Hokage because he was born weak. But the one thing Neji said that hurt Naruto more than the Hokage comment was, if you weren't meant to be such a failure, your teammate would still be alive. Which Naruto angry makes 20 more clones and he focuses chakra on his knuckles. And while Neji was busy focusing on the clones, Naruto made 3 more clones, and they swam into the ground and they went to the corner of the arena. And with 7 clones left, all the Narutos charged at Neji, but he used 8 trigrams palm revolving heaven, and all the clones got dispelled. And before Naruto could get back up, Neji used 8 trigrams 64 palms, and he hit all of Naruto's chakra points. And they were about to call it the end of the match, but Naruto got back up, so the countdown stopped. And Neji started to talk about the Hyuga clan, and eventually revealed his seal on his forehead. And after Neji's done telling the story, Neji was able to hit Naruto multiple times, and that's when Naruto starts to use some of the 9 tails' chakra. And Naruto started to focus more chakra into his knuckles, and Naruto, who is now faster than he was before, charges at Neji. And he doesn't actually use them to cause too much harm, but uses them primarily to protect himself from any of the gentle fist attacks, and he uses either his legs or his elbows to hit Neji. And when they went for one final clash, Naruto put his knuckles on his sides and punched, while Neji went for a rotation, which causes an explosion when the attacks collide. And when the dust settles, they see 2 holes in the ground, and they see Neji from one of the holes get back up, and they see Naruto knocked out in the other hole. And when Neji starts to walk towards Naruto, he gets hit in the sides by the shadow clones that Naruto made earlier. And when he turned around, the clones poofed away. And when he turns back to Naruto in the hole, he disappeared as well. And when he did, Naruto undid the underground projection fish technique and punched Neji in the jaw. The way he did this is when the explosion happened and he landed in the hole, he made a shadow clone and swam into the ground. And with that last punch, Neji was too tired to move, making Naruto the winner. So we skip Shikamaru's round and it will be the same. And the same thing happened with Kankuro. And instead of Shino not fighting that round, they decided to make Shino fight Kiba, in which Shino wins. And when it's time for Sakura's match with Gaara, she appears with Kakashi when her name is called. And her outfit is different. Her used to be pink clothes are now a similar blue, and the front and the back of the outfit are shorter. And when the round began, Sakura sunk into the ground, and when one Sakura appeared, it launched a water bullet, which gets blocked by Gaara's sand. And Gaara speared the Sakura with his hand. And after a couple seconds, the Sakura disappeared because she was a clone. And another Sakura launched herself at Gaara, trying to get a punch in. And when that Sakura gets destroyed, 8 more Sakuras jumped out of the ground and launched water bullets, which got blocked by Gaara's sand. And Gaara starts to transform while he's surrounded by sand, and since she didn't have the Chidori, she was unable to get through it. But she comes up with a plan to use some of the water she made with her water bullets, which was to use a jutsu Kakashi used on Zabuza, which was the Great Waterfall technique. But since there wasn't that much water around, it couldn't be as powerful. And since it takes a great deal of chakra, she couldn't do it more than a couple of times without losing the ability to move. And when she's ready, she runs up a wall and she jumps into the air as high as she can, and then launches it straight into the ground. And the attack made the whole arena into a bigger hole, and the examiner even had to leave the arena where he would have been hit too. But since it wasn't a piercing jutsu like the Chidori, it wasn't able to break the sand around Gaara. But while everyone was distracted by the water jutsu Sakura used, no one noticed that almost everyone in the stands were starting to fall asleep. And when most of the people were asleep, the invasion began. And while Orochimaru and the third Hokage are fighting, Gaara leaves the arena with Kankuro and Temari. And before Sakura goes in to chase after them, Kakashi stops her and tells her to get Naruto and Shikamaru before she leaves. And he also summons Bakun to track the three sand shinobi. After she wakes up Naruto and gets Shikamaru, they leave as fast as possible. And after a bit of time, Bakun notices the scent of 9 more shinobi behind them. And Shikamaru came up with a plan that required one person to sacrifice themselves and possibly die. Naruto, not wanting another dead comrade, decides to sacrifice himself, and he promises that he would come back to help them. So Naruto ran the other direction while the three continued on, and when Naruto got a kunai thrown at him, he summoned Gamasu, and he uncovered his Sharingan, and they both fight 8 of the 9 attacking shinobi. And in this fight, Naruto did not hold back, and he used his chakra blades to kill, or at the very least to cause a lot of damage, to the point of them being knocked out. Remembering that Pakun said there were 9, looks for the last one. But after a bit of time, Asuma comes out of the trees, and he is holding the body of the last of the 9. Naruto then undid the summoning, and quickly leaves Asuma, and he tries to catch up to the 3. And by the time he got to them, Sakura was heavily beaten, and was starting to be crushed, and Shikamaru was knocked out as well. And from the looks of him, there could be a possibility that he could be dead, and Pakun was even injured, and Gaara was in the middle of his transformation. And Naruto, the second he sees any of this, goes for another summoning jutsu for Gamasu. But what he summoned was an orange toad named Gamakichi. When he realized that Gamasu wasn't summoned, he put the toad next to him, and he just jumped at Gaara with his chakra-covered knuckles on. Which, when Naruto went for a scratch on Gaara's arm, the whole sand arm gets cut off, and after a bit of time, the sand comes back together. And when Gaara launched sand shurikens, that's when he realized that Gaara was like him, but only if he didn't have anyone. So he decides not to just save his friends that are beaten, but to save Gaara as well. And he stabs Gaara with a kunai on his butt, and the kunai had a paper bomb on it, which when it exploded, Gaara's body was almost completely destroyed, and he lost most of his body. Naruto then made 9,999 clones, and they kick him at the same time. And they all then put on their knuckles and punch him with chakra blades. Thinking that Gaara's knocked out, he undoes the clones and lets down his guard. Then he sees Gaara fully transform into Shukaku, and the sand surrounds Naruto and starts to crush him, and Naruto responds by summoning Gamabunta. After Gamabunta recognizes Shukaku of the sand, he says to Naruto that he doesn't want to fight, but he changes his mind when Gamakichi tells him that Naruto actually saved him from Shukaku. And for Gamabunta's first attack, he goes for a slice on Shukaku's arm, slicing it off completely. And after fighting for a bit, Gamabunta admits that he doesn't believe that he could beat Shukaku, and he tells Naruto to transform them both into something that has fangs and claws. In which Naruto, when he thinks of something with fangs and claws, the first thing that he thought of was the Nine Tails. So they both turn into a near replica of the Nine Tails, and they fight. And when Naruto is finally able to, he jumps off of Gamabunta and punches Gaara in the head as hard as he can, waking him up. When Gaara woke up, Shukaku got suppressed back into him, and all the sand crumbled away. Now with both of them on the ground, tired and mostly out of chakra, Naruto says that he forgives him, and says that he like him. But right after he says this, he threatens that he will kill Gaara without any regrets or hesitation if he attacks his friends again. Hours later, Naruto woke up. He was in a hospital bed, and Kakashi was waiting for him to wake up, and he was sitting right next to him. When he realizes Naruto woke up, he says that Sakura and Shikamaru are badly injured, but alive. And days later, they had a funeral for the third Hokage. And that's where I'm going to leave the What If. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time on Something Z.